So today, we are diving into one of the biggest mysteries of the internet age. We're talking about the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. I mean, this is a story about a literal ghost in the machine, someone who built a multi-trillion-dollar world and then just vanished. All that's left is a legendary fortune and an even bigger puzzle. So get this. Back in April of 2011, Satoshi Nakamoto sends an email to another developer with these 8 simple words. And that was it. That was the last anyone ever heard from him. No big farewell, no dramatic exit, just a quiet sign-off. And when I say disappeared, I mean he went completely dark. His accounts went silent, he stopped contributing to the project, the founder of Bitcoin was just gone. And in his place, he left a technology that would completely reshape the world of finance, and a question that has kept computer scientists, journalists, and amateur sleuths busy for over a decade. Just who was Satoshi Nakamoto? Okay, so let's put on our detective hats and start digging. The search for Satoshi has been a global obsession, you know? There are countless theories pointing to all sorts of different people, cypherpunks, cryptographers, you name it. Now, the list of potential candidates is pretty long, but a few names always seem to float to the top. You've got Nick Szabo, who created something called BitGold, which was kind of like a precursor to Bitcoin. There's Adam Back, whose Hashcash invention is a key part of Bitcoin's design. Some people even think Satoshi wasn't one person at all, but a whole group. But really, the prime suspect has always been the late, great Hal Finney. He was a true pioneer of cryptography and, get this, the very first person to ever receive a Bitcoin transaction. But here's the twist. As perfect as Finney looks on paper, there's a mountain of digital forensic evidence, a lot of it put together by researcher Jameson Lopp, that pretty strongly suggests he and Satoshi were two completely different people. So let's look at the clues. Okay, so check out this timeline. This is our first piece of hard evidence. On the morning of April 18th, 2009, Hal Finney was physically running a 10-mile race in Santa Barbara. We have his official results. There are even photos. But during that exact same time window, Satoshi was online, sending Bitcoin and emailing with another developer. It's a direct conflict. Hal was provably busy in the real world while Satoshi was active in the digital one. He can't be in two places at once, right? The next clue is even more compelling, and it's right there in the code. See, a developer's coding style is like a fingerprint. It's unique. And when you put Hal's public code side by side with Bitcoin's original code, the styles are just totally different. Hal used tabs, Satoshi used spaces. They had different ways of naming functions and formatting comments. It's really, really unlikely that the same person would have two such distinct styles. And the list just keeps going. Early logs show they used different internet providers. Hal was posting on forums during long stretches when Satoshi was completely silent. Hal also publicly talked about his worries over Bitcoin's energy consumption, a topic Satoshi never even mentioned. And maybe the biggest smoking gun, in an email, Satoshi literally referred to Hal Finney as another person. So if we can build a really strong case for who Satoshi wasn't, what about what we know he has? Well, this is where the mystery transforms into a story of almost unimaginable wealth, a true digital dragon's hoard. Through some seriously careful analysis of the blockchain, researchers have figured out that back in the very early days, Satoshi mined and stacked up about 1.1 million Bitcoin. So what's 1.1 million Bitcoin actually worth? Well, let's put it in perspective. As of September 2025, that fortune is valued at roughly 124 billion US dollars. That would easily make Satoshi one of the wealthiest people on the entire planet. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth does anyone know that? Well, the key is this unique digital fingerprint that researchers call the Satoshi pattern. They found this very distinct, non-random pattern in how the first Bitcoin blocks were mined. And that pattern allowed them to connect about 22,000 different Bitcoin addresses, all back to one single dominant miner, who everyone is pretty sure was Satoshi. And here's the really wild part. This massive fortune, this $124 billion treasure chest, has just been sitting there, completely dormant, for over a decade. Not a single coin has been moved or spent from those wallets, which just makes the whole mystery even deeper. Which, of course, brings us to the ultimate what-if scenario. What would happen if one day those coins actually started to move? If Satoshi came back, it would be a massive event that would send shockwaves across the entire world.
So, most experts think the fallout would go one of three ways. First, you'd have an immediate and chaotic market shock. Second, you could see Bitcoin's core principle of decentralization completely broken. And third, it could create an opening that leads to altcoins rising.
All right, let's start with market shock. If Satoshi's coins suddenly moved, the market would almost certainly freak out. The fear of a $100 billion sell-off would trigger absolute panic and insane price swings. Exchanges would probably crash, and you can bet regulators from every country would be all over it, demanding much stricter rules.
But it goes way beyond the money. There's a deeper philosophical problem. Bitcoin's whole strength is that it has no leader. It's governed by code and consensus. If Satoshi came back, he'd instantly become the central, almost godlike figure. Every word he said would be treated like gospel. The project wouldn't be truly decentralized anymore, and that threatens its entire reason for being.
And all of that uncertainty? It would create a huge opening for the competition. If the market suddenly starts to see Bitcoin as being controlled by just one person, confidence could evaporate. Investors and developers might flee to other projects they see as more decentralized, like Ethereum or Solana. You could see a massive wave of money and talent rush into these altcoins, completely changing the crypto landscape forever. You know, when you think about all that potential chaos, it leads to a really fascinating idea. Maybe Satoshi's disappearance wasn't just some random mystery. Maybe it was his masterstroke.
As the researcher Jameson Lopp put it so perfectly, a human can be criticized and politically attacked. A myth will withstand the test of time. By staying anonymous, Satoshi gave Bitcoin something much more powerful than a leader. He gave it an incorruptible founding myth.
His greatest gift to Bitcoin was his absence. By walking away, he made sure that no single person could be pressured or compromised or turned into a king. He's the reason Bitcoin is truly decentralized, a system that belongs to its users, governed only by code.
And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. When you really think about the impact of the technology and the power of its story, you have to wonder, was Satoshi's greatest invention the code for Bitcoin? Or was it the perfectly crafted myth of the creator who simply walked away?